the very same three Director Generals of Operations of the three services who had briefed you on 11th and 12th of May 2025. In addition, we also have with us the Deputy Chief of Integrated Defence Staff Operations, Lieutenant General Zubin A. Minwala, on the stage, who will talk about the joint operations. I would acquaint you with the proceedings today. Initially, the general officers will be briefing you all for about 5 to 6 minutes each. Thereafter, we'll go in for question and answer session. Now, I hand over the proceedings to Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai. Please, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I begin by paying a very sincere homage to the 26 innocent lives that we lost in Pahalgam last year. We wish their families and we pray for them that God will give them the strength to bear this very sad, unfortunate, and irreparable loss in their lives. It has been a year to the day since Operation Sindoor was conducted. And as the then DGMO, I look back at not only a military operation, but possibly a defining moment in India's strategic journey. Operation Sindoor saw India very consciously and coherently go beyond its erstwhile approaches and methods and target terror across the line of control and our international boundary with Pakistan. With precision, proportionality, and a clarity of purpose. It was a statement of resolve, responsibility, and strategic restraint by a nation. From the outset, the government gave us two clear directions: clear politico-military objectives and the operational flexibility to achieve these. The clearly stated end to destroy and degrade terror ecosystems, disrupt their planning, and deter future aggression from these bases was very unambiguously spelled out, while the armed forces were entrusted the wherewithal to plan and execute this operation. This balance between firm direction at the top and professional autonomy and flexibility at the operational level was a critical key to our success last year. It allowed us in the military to adapt swiftly, to deconflict, to synchronize, and to respond decisively in a dynamic, multi-domain battlefield. Operation Sindoor underscored India's evolving whole-of-government approach, which played out in a clockwork fashion on the battlefield. The highest offices and ministries of the government, intelligence agencies, cyber and information operation institutions, border guarding paramilitary forces such as the BSF, all worked in concert with the armed forces to execute an operation which is now being widely acknowledged as the gold standard, both militarily and strategically across the world. Operation Sindoor was also a joint tri-services effort. It integrated land, air, and maritime capabilities with shared situational awareness, common operation and intelligence pictures, and real-time decision-making. Standoff precision strikes, 9 in all, 7 executed by the Indian Army and 2 by the Indian Air Force, were timed to perfection, achieved total surprise, and inflicted maximum damage in each established hub deep in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir and heartland Pakistan, signaling that no sanctuary is safe. All this while all of Pakistan's effort to target our military infrastructure and bases came to a knot due to a very carefully and deliberately laid out air defense architecture. We planned, executed, and concluded a complex multi-domain operation in a remarkably compressed time frame. The operation also showcased indigenous capability. A significant percentage of the weapon systems, munitions, rockets and missiles, sensors, and electronic warfare suits that were employed were developed and produced in India. The BrahMos, Akash, advanced surveillance and targeting systems, along with homegrown ammunition and spares, all played a decisive role. Indigenous equipment meant not only just self-reliance, but the flexibility to tailor these to our operational requirements, sustain and maintain supply chains, and to respond with speed and confidence. Operation Sindoor proved that Atmanirbhar is not just a slogan. It is indeed a force multiplier. Today, over 65% of our defense equipment is being manufactured domestically. I also want to speak here of our exit strategy and escalation control. In an era of prolonged conflicts around the world, we struck hard, achieved clearly defined objectives, and then decided to cease hostilities when the Pakistanis were compelled to negotiate and requested us to stop. The objectives were achieved through a calibrated shot and sharp shock that altered the enemy's risk appetite and disrupted his command and control. Without locking India into a long-drawn war or conflict, the ill effects of which we are seeing in ongoing conflicts around the world. This measured approach reflects the maturity of our strategic culture and the professionalism of our armed forces. Finally, the operation placed enormous responsibility on every arm of the state. Intelligence agencies provided the accurate information that is so critical to precision targeting. Cyber and electronic warfare units maintained information dominance. The government managed the international environment, as also the internal security and public reassurance. The armed forces executed the kinetic phase with discipline, precision, and minimal collateral impact. This multi-agency, multi-domain coordination will remain the template for future operations. Operation Sindoor was not an end. It was just the beginning. और यहां पर जन कवि दुष्यंत कुमार त्यागी की एक मौलिक रचना का प्रभावशाली अंश मैं आपके सामने रखना चाहता हूं. सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं. सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं. मेरी कोशिश है कि ये सूरत बदलनी चाहिए. India's fight against terror, ladies and gentlemen, will go on. A year on, we remember not just the operation, but also the principle behind it. India will defend its sovereignty, its security, its people, decisively, professionally, and with the utmost responsibility. Jai Hind.
Good afternoon, friends. Today, it is 1 year and 15 days since the horrendous Pahalgam massacre. And as my friend Rajiv alluded, exactly 1 year since our first weapons hit the target. The Pahalgam incident in itself is an incident for which no amount of condemnation and no amount of repudiation will ever be enough. We cannot bring back our fellow countrymen who were massacred in cold blood on the 22nd of April 2025. But we can certainly resolve to ensure that such incidents are not repeated. Operation Sindoor, which remains paused, is an effort towards that resolve. Since times immemorial, we have lived with a simple philosophy of live and let live. But when our desire for peace is mistaken for weakness and our silence is taken as absence, there is no choice but to act. And when we act, there are no half measures. It is decisive, it is lethal, and it translates into Operation Sindoor. A decisive yet calibrated response targeting the perpetrators and their backers. As Rajiv has alluded, going into this operation, our higher directions were very, very clear. The objective was clear, and the forces were given full operational freedom. Jointness was built into this operation from conceptualization to execution. The COSC, which comprises of the CDS and the 3 service chiefs, deliberated every option and calibrated every decision. Thus, with an absolute clarity of action, a successful joint operation was launched to destroy the terror infrastructure in POJK as well as in Pakistan itself. And when that first weapon hit the target on the early morning of 7th May 2025, that decisive flash, ladies and gentlemen, was the strength and the resolve of the people of India being projected into the enemy heartland. It was partial justice being served to the families of the victims of that horrendous massacre in Pahalgaon and many such incidents before that. Going into these operations, I remember focus into details of planning. The 3 of us met almost daily and on more than one occasions. Our aim was not just to hit. It had to be lethal, it had to be precise, avoiding collateral. Hence, selection of targets, timing, weapons to be used, everything needed to be carefully considered. And once that was done, execution was achieved with clockwork precision. A question which comes up time and again is, why did we agree to stop? I fully understand the angst of our people, especially the younger generation, given our experience with Pakistan. But allow me to clarify here. Our fight was with the terrorists and their support infrastructure. And that is what we hit, ensuring no collateral damage. We had achieved our objectives and our mission was complete. But when Pakistani establishment decided to side with terror and make it their own fight, we had no choice but to respond in kind. It was about self-defense, much beyond a counter-terror operation. When we responded, it was lethal and ruthless. And after taking the beating, sense kicked in the adversary, and they asked for cessation of hostilities. We paused when the request came, we stepped back, but we didn't blink. We had delivered the message, and the message was very clear. That is, misadventure will not go unanswered. Acts of terror will carry consequences. A lot of time this question comes up over the past 1 year. What are the lessons? Well, in the defense forces, we are continuously evaluating our options and drawing our lessons through exercises, training, and simulation. But of course, there is no better training ground than an actual operation itself. So we have also internalized what we encountered and taken them into our planning consideration. Some of them I can share with you. First, Operation Sindoor reaffirmed the primacy of air power. And when I say air power, it means everything that is in the air and not only Air Force. As the first responder and the dimension of choice for any nation. Second, it reasserted the salience of jointness and a whole of nation approach. It vindicated Indian Air Force's focus on precision targeting and net-centric warfare, with ICCS emerging as a clear enabler. Next, we are also able to see through our adversary. We now have first-hand confirmation of their capabilities, capacities, and tactics they intended to hide. So I'm sure there are a worried lot across there. A crucial lesson: nations forced into conflict must always have conflict termination criteria and strategy in sight. Otherwise, very soon you can go astray and do not realize how to terminate that conflict. Of course, we need to invest more in certain capabilities like space, unmanned systems, cyber. Some of these capabilities have already been addressed in the past 1 year, and we fully realize that Atmanirbharta, as my friend Rajiv alluded, is the way forward. So Indian Air Force relies heavily on indigenous technologies, and several measures are being taken to enhance partnership with defense PSUs and private industry. IF is an active participant of Mission Sudarshan Chakra, and we are working to build on the success of ICCS to provide this crucial capability to our country. Looking ahead, we continue the vigil, and IF will continue to be the first responder whenever our peace and tranquility is challenged, whenever our sovereignty is threatened. There is no distance too far, no depth too great, and no dimension we cannot dominate. At this instant, we are watching and could not be better prepared. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I consider it as a privilege to be amidst you on the first anniversary of Operation Sindoor, an operation that stands as a defining testament to India's resolve against terror and to the decisive strategic vision of our national leadership. As we reflect on its conduct, lessons, and our preparedness for the future, we do so not merely on a highly successful operation, but on the emergence of a new dimension of deterrence, offensive in mindset, swift in response, precise in execution, and resolute in purpose. Operation Sindoor underscored the strategic vision of our national leadership, which provided a precise and unambiguous mandate and the necessary operational freedom, enabling decisive kinetic action by the Indian Defence Forces. In the immediate aftermath of the dastardly Pahalgam attack, the Indian Navy transitioned rapidly to combat readiness, deploying the Carrier Battle Group, surface action groups, led by potent indigenous frontline warships, submarine, aircraft, and special forces in an offensive posture in the northern Arabian Sea. On the night of 6th-7th May, the naval personnel also participated in the precision strikes on terror infrastructure alongside the Indian Army and Indian Air Force, underscoring jointness. As the campaign unfolded, forward deployment of the Indian Navy compelled Pakistani naval and air units into a defensive posture, largely confined to harbors or operating close to their coastline. Our dominance at sea created credible deterrence and held Pakistani economic trade, routes, and risks, thereby significantly contributing to the escalation control mechanism. Op Sindoor validated India's ability to respond to asymmetric provocation with deliberate, precise, and proportionate force. It demonstrated that terror infrastructure and supporting military enablers can be targeted swiftly and effectively whilst maintaining escalation dominance. The operation also highlighted the decisive role of indigenous cutting-edge technologies, platforms, systems, and equipment, including drones, layered defense systems, and counter-uncrewed aerial systems. By striking the terror hubs in the heart of Pakistan using long-range precision weapons, India effectively called the bluff on Pakistan's nuclear blackmail. The growing relevance of uncrewed and autonomous systems, as seen in the recent conflicts, reinforces the need for accelerated integration into our operational constructs. Our endeavor, therefore, remains focused on inducting these niche capabilities and constantly reviewing our concepts of operations to remain ahead of the adversary. The information domain emerged as a parallel battle space. Disinformation was effectively countered, and the whole of government approach ensured prevalence of our own strategic intent over the manufactured narratives. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, the operation demonstrated the operational dividends of the principles of JAY, that is, jointness, Atmanirbharta, and indigenization. Seamless integration of three services through Chiefs of Staff Committee, as Marshal Bharti just mentioned, regular meetings of all the three Director Generals of the services, aided in better situational awareness, control of escalation response, and quick decision making, enabling better actions on ground. The establishment of Joint Operation Control Center ensured synchronized military actions against the adversary. Furthermore, the seamless coordination with all national agencies, including Indian Coast Guard, intelligence and maritime agencies, ensured robust employment of the comprehensive national power. The performance of indigenous ships such as the aircraft carrier Vikrant, Kolkata and Visakhapatnam class destroyers validated the Indian Navy's investment in indigenous capability, blue water readiness, and integrated warfighting, thus reaffirming Atmanirbharta as a critical enabler for operational success. To conclude, I would like to assure the citizens of Bharat that the Indian Defence Forces, including the Indian Navy, remain ready and forward deployed. If Op Sindoor was proof of calibrated resolve, our next response will be about sustained overmatch. If challenged again, we will not merely respond, we'll shape the battle space from the outset. The Indian Navy, alongside the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force, has demonstrated capability to strike deep, strike far, and strike sure, anytime, anywhere, anyhow. Jai Hind. Jalmev yas, balmev tasya. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have heard the then Director Generals of Operations outline their conduct of operations. The inter-service synergy during Ops Sindoor was orchestrated by the Ops Directorate at Headquarter IDS under the directions of the Chief of Staff Committee. Importantly, operations were seamlessly integrated across not just traditional domains, but also cyber, space, and information domains, marking a decisive evolution in our warfighting philosophy. Ops Sindoor demonstrated our ability to deliver integrated effects with speed, precision, and clarity of purpose, serving as a foundational step towards multi-domain operations. This capability is the result of sustained efforts over the years to build structures, processes, and capacities for executing multi-domain operations in its true sense. What we witnessed during Ops Sindoor was not just an isolated success, but the manifestation of deliberate institutional strengthening. The success of Ops Sindoor is firmly rooted in the reforms initiated by the government, including the creation of the post of the CDS. The Honorable Raksha Mantri's declaration of 2025 as the year of reforms has been pivotal in driving jointness, integration of structures, organizational processes, and the push towards Atmanirbharta. These reforms provided the enabling framework that translated into operational success. The operation also highlighted enhanced situational awareness at all levels of command, supported by a robust joint communications architecture that enabled timely aggregation of all intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance inputs. This architecture continues to be strengthened and is now being integrated into a fully functional Joint Operations Control Center for improved joint targeting and decision-making. In the air defense domain, systems like the IACCS and the Akash Tir
were integrated to provide a unified and comprehensive air situation picture. These networks have since been further reinforced, contributing to a more resilient and responsive air defense grid. We are also working towards an integrated and layered architecture to ensure seamless protection against multiple threats, vectors to include drones, loiter ammunitions, and missiles. At the operational level, the fusion of multi-sensor inputs from across the services and national agencies enabled a comprehensive situational awareness grid. The significantly compressed decision-making cycles ensured decisive outcomes. A key pillar of our progress has been the strengthening of the integrated command and control structures, supported by advanced decision support systems and data-driven processes. A gradual process of transition from a network-centric to a data-centric architecture is underway. Our multi-domain approach has expanded into new emerging domains. In the space domain, close coordination with ISRO and the Department of Space is enhancing real-time ISR and targeting capabilities. In the information and the cognitive domains, coordinated efforts with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting during Sindoor established an effective model of civil-military fusion. Building on this, a Defense Strategic Communication Division is being established, leveraging AI-enabled tools to counter misinformation in real time. Emerging technologies have underscored the importance of unmanned and autonomous systems. We are inducting longer-range precision capabilities and advancing manned-unmanned teaming. Formulation of a national counter-UAS policy in coordination with Ministry of Home Affairs and civil aviation authorities is currently underway. Jointness continues to be reinforced through doctrinal and structural advancements. Multiple tri-service doctrines have been promulgated, complemented by initiatives as the Military Quantum Mission and other documents under the Defense Forces Vision 2047, which was released by the Honorable Raksha Mantri a few days back. On the ground, integration is translating into tangible capability through joint logistic nodes and tri-service maintenance protocols, enhancing efficiency and operational readiness. Interagency coordination has also been significantly strengthened. Synergy with the Ministry of Home Affairs and the BSF has improved coordination along the LC and the IB, while seamless integration of the Indian Coast Guard operations with that of the Indian Navy has bolstered coastal security. Engagement with national security agencies and intelligence agencies such as the DRDO, NTRO, and the wider intelligence community, along with industry, both public and private and startup, reflects a mature whole-of-nation approach aligned towards common strategic objectives. Extensive tri-service exercises and wargaming and simulations over the past year have validated and refined our multi-domain operation concepts, ensuring agility and future readiness. Today, we stand equipped with integrated capabilities, strengthened by joint structures and seamless coordination amongst the services, ministries, and government agencies, reflecting a true whole-of-nation approach. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now have the question and answer session. Before we proceed, a few ground rules you are aware of. We will take questions in sets of 3 at a time. Please keep your questions brief and avoid multiple questions in one go so that we can cover maximum people. Also, once nominated to answer the question, kindly introduce yourself and the media house you belong to prior to asking the question. And please restrict your questions to Operation Sindoor and the aspects covered by the general officers on the stage. General officers will now take the questions. You have the placard with you. With that, kindly introduce yourself. A placard number 65, 15, and 85, Mr. Ravi. Starting with 65, please. Yeah.
Sir, good afternoon. My name is Ajay Banerjee. I work with the Tribune. My small two clarifications, one for General Ghai, one for Air Marshal Bharti. First to General Ghai. General Ghai, the Indian Army Chief has in the past revealed to us about the transformation which is happening regarding the creation of the Divya Astra batteries, the Shaktiban regiments, and also the Ashni platoons. Sir, are these transformations continuous? And what are the further transformations, if you could share with us? To Air Marshal Bharti, sir, Pakistan and China have been testing new kinds of missiles. Are we factoring in part of those air defense networks of ours to tackle those missiles? Thank you, sir.
This is Ravi Shankar from Bharat Shakti. Here. We are interacting with you with the same panel which that used to brief us last year during Operation Sindoor. That is very pleasant and reassuring as well. So सीधा सवाल पे आते हैं. पाकिस्तान ने ये कहा था, दावा किया था कि हमने भारत को बहुत नुकसान पहुंचाया. तो और इस नैरेटिव को उन्होंने वेस्टर्न मीडिया, वेस्टर्न एक्सपर्ट्स के बीच बहुत कामयाबी के साथ इस नैरेटिव को पहुंचा भी दिया. मेरा सवाल एयर मार्शल भारती से है कि इन दावों की सच्चाई क्या है? क्या आप शेयर करेंगे इन दावों में कितना दम है, भारत का कितना नुकसान हुआ था? और दूसरा जनरल घई के साथ कि घई साहब आप ये बताएं कि ऑपरेशन सिंदूर पॉज हुआ है, आप ऐसा बता रहे हैं, लेकिन ये चल रहा है, इट्स ऑन गोइंग. तो ये किस फॉर्म में चल रहा है, इसका क्या डायमेंशन है, ये बड़ा शेयर करें प्लीज. थैंक यू.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Shivani. I'm from NewsX. Gentlemen, we all have been seeing since the past 1 year, and we've also been talking about the integrated theater commands. We are in Jaipur. It's been touted as one of the commands which will be the headquarters. And given that all of you have spoken about jointness during Operation Sindoor, how close are we to integrated theater command so that our timelines are reduced? You mentioned it was 1 year 16 days, so we took 16 days to in fact strategize this entire operation. Do you believe that we can minimize or compress that number further in future wars? And also, how decisive was India? Because when we are looking at escalation ladders across the world in this geopolitical world, India was very decisive. So what helped India actually make or take that call that we decided that the enemy had to come to the negotiating table?
Please, sir. Kindly.
Okay, Ajay, you asked the question about transformation. So you're correct. The chief has repeatedly spoken about this ongoing transformation. You mentioned a few Divyastra batteries. You also mentioned the Ashni platoons. There are more. There is the Shaktiban regiment. You saw the Bhairavs being paraded on Kartavya Path this year on the Republic Day. Definitely these transformations are ongoing. I will not go into the specific numbers of how many of these organizations are being raised. That is an operational detail, so we'll not go there. But a significant number is already being raised. Their roles and tasks are very, very clearly delineated. While we've given a thought, so when you speak about the Divyastra, I don't mind telling everybody here that that's related to the artillery, as is the Shaktiban. The Ashni platoons are related to counter UAS, and specifically with respect to infantry battalions being organized and equipped for the counter UAS role. There is more ongoing thought as far as these transformations are going on. So we are now also thinking about such transformations in the armored corps, for instance, in the mechanized infantry, in the aviation, just to name a few more sectors. And as we go on, you will hear us bring out more details. But all these deliberations are at a very advanced stage. So that is, Ajay, to answer your question about the transformation. As far as Ravi Shankar from Bharat Shakti, Ravi, आपने जो सवाल पूछा है about in what form is Operation Sindoor going on? देखिए, एयर मार्शल भारती ने बताया कि पॉज हो गया. आई थिंक एक सिविलियन अंडरस्टैंडिंग होती है कि लड़ाई में सिर्फ एक दूसरे के ऊपर गोलाबारी होती है. देयर इज काइनेटिक एक्शन, वेदर स्टैंड ऑफ और कन्वेंशनल वेयर पीपल कम क्लोज. लेकिन ऑपरेशन का जारी होना मतलब इज ऑल्सो मेकिंग प्रेपरेशंस. और जो तैयारियां चल रही हैं, अजय बैनर्जी ने पूछा सवाल कि ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन कैसे चल रहा है. वो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन क्यों चल रहा है? क्योंकि कुछ लेसन्स हमने इम्बाइब किए ऑपरेशन सिंदूर से. उन लेसन्स की वजह से हमें लगा कि हमने कुछ बदलाव करने हैं अपने स्ट्रक्चर्स में, अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में, अपनी इक्विपिंग में. तो वो एक तैयारी चल रही है. उसके अलावा जो डिप्लॉयमेंट्स हैं उस पे सोच विचार चल रहा है. एक्चुअल ट्रिगर अगर होगा और काइनेटिक एक्शन की जरूरत पड़ेगी तो वो भी होगा. सो इस हिसाब से ये ऑपरेशन अभी भी जारी है और जारी रहेगा. क्योंकि जैसे मैंने अपने स्टेटमेंट में भी बताया, इंडियाज वॉर अगेंस्ट टेरर विल गो ऑन. So therefore, the operation will remain in progress for as long as it is required. I'll now request Air Marshal Bharti, जो आपका दूसरा सवाल था लॉसेस और डैमेज के बारे में कि पाकिस्तानीज का ये दावा है, उसका जवाब एयर मार्शल भारती दे.
ओके, एक एक करके. सबसे पहले ट्रिब्यून, आपने चाहा कि आई शुड आंसर पाक एंड चाइना टेस्टिंग न्यू काइंड्स ऑफ मिसाइल्स. सो व्हाट आर वी डूइंग अबाउट इट? ऑफ कोर्स, सी, वी आर कंटिन्यूअसली डूइंग द एनवायरमेंट स्कैन. ओके, दैट्स आवर जॉब. All right, and whatever requires to be done, we put in motion as to be always ahead, okay, of their capabilities. And between the two, of course, the dynamics are different between Pakistan and China, but we are continuously factoring in. And if I could support that argument with certain projects, okay. You would remember we have already contracted for the S-400s. Okay, some units were still yet to fetch in, so they are fetching in now. So that is one input. We are also working on indigenous systems like Kusha, which you would be aware of, and our DRDO is working on that, and which we hope that it will be available to us in near future. As I said, the Honorable Prime Minister has already conveyed the direction for Sudarshan Chakra, so we are working towards that. As also of our own indigenous air-to-air missile Astra, so we are trying to improve on that. Various other projects, QR-SAM. So it's a continuous process, and it's not that we don't articulate in the open media as to what all we are doing, but lots is happening, and rest assured that we aim to be ahead of their capabilities. So that is our focus. As far as second question from here, भारत का कितना नुकसान हुआ है, तो आपने देखा है नुकसान के तौर पर they have not been able to inflict any major damage onto our side. Okay, ना तो हमारे कोई military infrastructure damage हुआ है, much of civilian structures. So whatever they came with, okay, be in terms of missiles, be in terms of loiter munitions, be in terms of other unmanned systems, we were able to neutralize that with our integrated approach and integrated ICCS, Akash Tir and IMSAS, okay, that we have alluded to earlier. So whatever they may say, remember, narratives and rhetoric do not give you victory. Victory is measured by hard facts, and hard facts we have given out to you earlier, 1 year, starting from 1 year hence, and in between also in various forums, it has been given out to you all. And what are the hard facts? The hard facts are that we struck and decimated their 9 terrorist camps on the 7th of May. Proof is there for everybody to see. The hard facts and the ground reality is that we struck 11 of their airfields. The ground reality is that we destroyed 13 of their aircraft, either on ground or in the air, including one high-value airborne asset at a record distance of 300 kilometers plus. So that is the hard fact. So take your pick. आपको क्या विश्वास करना है और क्या नहीं विश्वास करना है. और तीसरा और कोई सवाल था? Okay, thank you.
Shivani, before I ask General Zubin to answer your question about theatre commands, you also said that what was it so compelling that we did, which forced the Pakistanis to come to the negotiating table? What compelled them? You've just heard Air Marshal Bharti give out the statistics. If I was to add the damage that we caused on the line of control, for instance, inadvertently, their honors and awards list, which was out in the internet domain, told us that so many of those awards were given posthumously. So the numbers that they suffered on the line of control in the exchanges that followed, they lost more than 100 soldiers. That number is in excess of 100. 100 terrorists were what were killed in those 9 terrorist camps. So there was innumerable amount of damage, which compelled them. And at the end of the day, if the Pakistanis were to make the same amount of investment in their battle fighting ability as much as they do in the narrative, I think they would have fared much better. So, that's advice that they could take. Zubin?
Shivani, you asked this about where are we in the theatre commands. And so, you see, you heard the Chief of Defence Staff in his various talks bring out that this is at the final stages and a lot of work has been done towards that. But I would like, and that's a decision of the government, but I would like to bring out over here that just raising of the theatre commands is not the aim. It is what has happened as a background work in terms of jointness, integration, because that forms the bedrock and the fabric of theatre commands. So here we have, there are numerous tasks under jointness and integration. To give you an exact number, 197 tasks in domains of operation, intelligence, op logistics, human resource, regulations, which form that bedrock. Towards that, some of these tasks are to be completed before the theatres to be formed and some after the formation of the theatres. And that's going on at a very fast pace. There is a lot of work which has been done. If you just as an example see what happened in Op Sindoor itself, was not an one-off and overnight in a synergy which happened. It was an institutional work. And the formation of the JOCC, Joint Operation Control Center, fusion of ISR resources of the services, decision-making processes are all institutional work which has laid that foundation which will happen for the theatre commands. So therefore, whenever the theatre commands get announced, which is the prerogative of the government of India, we are ready to form that bedrock. And is there any other question you have? That was it. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
I think we can go on the next set of questions.
I just want to, I'm itching to respond to, amplify further about Shivani, your question regarding how decisive and why could we be decisive? That we have all three have clearly reiterated that a clear and precise political mandate was there with us and operational freedom was given to us. And we were very, very clear at the initial stages that we were to neutralize the terror infrastructure. The second part of it, militarily, we had formulated at the CDS and COSC level, it's a chairman Chief of Staff Committee level, a clearly defined escalation control mechanism, wherein we were to look at calibrated and graded response to each event. So once this terror infrastructure was neutralized, and thereafter they did some action, and that mirror escalation at a harder level, and that the joint integrated operations by military actions by all three forces probably impacted the minds of the political and military leaders of Pakistan. And that's why the Pak DGMO had to approach DGMO Indian Army pleading for ceasefire. That is the main reason.
So can we go on the next, sir? Next, we can have next set of sections, questions. I'm seeing your placards. We'll take them one by one. Say placard number 19, 57, 76. And please listen to the questions. If you have similar question, kindly add on. May I request 19, please? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm Mayank. I work for Times Now. My question is, without raising a doubt about the collusion which was between Pakistan and China, can we get to understand what was the level, even if it was intelligence sharing, or what kind of a collusion was between Pakistan and China? That's my question. I request if answers can come from all four of you, or because that would add to articulations in a different manner. Thank you so much.
57, please.
Sir, I'm Ajit Dubey from the ANI, sir. Sir, my question is to Marshal Bharti and Admiral Pramod. Sir, when soon after the operations got over, the Deputy Chief of Army, he said that this was a unique war in a way that we were fighting three adversaries in one border, where the Chinese were providing the weapons, intelligence, satellite communication, satellite coverage, everything to the Pakistanis, and that Turkey was providing them with drones. So, how are we preparing for this kind of a war? And was this thought earlier, like we have been hearing about two-front war, but fighting three adversaries in one front? Was that ever thought about, and how is it being planned to be countered in future? And Bharti sir, you talked about the acquisition of the S-400s in Kusha. Can you give us the timelines about by when the S-400s remaining two squadrons are coming to join the Air Force, and the 5 squadrons of Kusha and this S-400s which we are going to sign in future? And Pramod sir, what is the plan to tackle air defense threats from the maritime theater? Is there any thinking in that direction? Thank you.
76, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Rahul Singh this side from Hindustan Times. So my question is for General Ghai. So since Operation Sindoor, the genesis was a terror attack, and you talked about the kind of infrastructure you destroyed, 9 camps across the LC, across the IB. So if you could give us your assessment of the current terror infrastructure across the border, the number of camps, how deep are they located? What has happened to the camps that you destroyed? Have any camps come up there? Have the camps moved in deeper? The number of terrorists that are being trained there, do you see any activity happening in terms of, a renewed effort to push these people in? So basically an assessment of terror infrastructure across the borders.
Anyone has got a similar kind of question, you can please ask so that the generals can ask. Yeah, please.
हाय सर, मैं मनीष हूँ इंडिया टीवी से। मेरा सिमिलर क्वेश्चन है राहुल सर से रिलेटेड है। ये है क्योंकि ये पूरा वेस्टर्न बॉर्डर पे खास तौर पे जो 7 टारगेट्स आपके थे, उन टारगेट्स की इस समय की कंडीशन अगर सैटेलाइट इमेजेस से देखते हैं तो काफ़ी कुछ चेंज हुआ है। तो नंबर ऑफ टेररिस्ट जो खास तौर पे इन एरियाज में है, चाहे वो जम्मू कश्मीर के ठीक सामने के एरियाज हों या फिर नीचे की तरफ, उनकी अभी क्या सिचुएशन है? और जो स्पॉट किए गए थे, जैसे आपने भी अभी बताया कि नंबर ऑफ टेररिस्ट किल्ड इन दैट पर्टिकुलर उसके बाद से लेकर अभी तक आप क्या देख रहे हैं? क्या वो ह्यूमन शीट फिर से लेना शुरू कर रहे हैं? क्या वो डेप्थ एरिया की तरफ चले गए हैं? क्या वो इन्फिल्ट्रेशन अटेम्प्ट या बाकी और जगह ये कोशिश कर रहे हैं पूरे एरियाज में?
Okay, so before we go to the questions about collusivity and timelines for some of the Air Force equipment that Ajit asked, I'll answer these questions about terrorist infrastructure and terrorists. So Rahul and Manish, as far as numbers are concerned, look, traditionally we've identified terror launch pads, terror camps, terror infrastructure across the line of control. And we are fairly well aware, our intelligence agencies usually have very good information about these details. So there are certain clusters across the line of control. I do not want to name these for the sake of confidentiality, but there are certain clusters across Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and today even across the international boundary, that we associate with terrorists. The dynamic nature of these launch pads and camps is a peculiar aspect. So, as you are suggesting, from time to time, the numbers will differ. The very nature and geography, or should I say the layout of these terror camps and infrastructure also continues to change. What's happened to the 9 that we hit, at least as far as the 2 more famous ones are concerned, they've been in the news. There has been money that has been pummeled in to try and reconstruct those. As far as the other 7 are concerned, we have a fair idea of what the numbers are, but it's safe to presume, and I said this in my statement, Air Marshal Bharti reiterated that no sanctuary across the line of control is safe. We will hit everything. He spoke about depths. We will go after everything. And I think that's been made clear in the new normal that the Prime Minister stated last year. But the conditions, the timing, and the method will be ours. That's what he said when he spoke about the new normal. So these are the 3 aspects. So therefore, the nature and numbers in these terror camps may keep fluctuating. I think people on the other side are also wise. So yes, some of these camps and launch pads have moved further in the depth where they feel that they will be safer. But like I said, no sanctuary is safe. So this is as far as about the terror is concerned. Now, before I hand over to the others about the collusivity, I just want to say that, look, the fact that Pakistan and China, in their own words, have a relationship that is deeper than the seas, higher than the mountains, that's a given. The fact that Pakistan has 80% of its military equipment of Chinese origin is a given. Whether we are fighting against 3 adversaries on the same border, be it Turkey or China or Pakistan, look, you play against the team that turns up on the park. So that's not something that should worry us so much. It's not something which is in our control. What is in our control is what we've all spoken about. Zubin spoke about what are the capabilities that we are building in an integrated manner. We spoke about transformation. The challenges have been identified and are clear. India, and I say India, and its armed forces are all on the path to meeting these challenges. That's why a year hence, we are all sitting in front of you. Just to give you a sense and an assurance that what we learned last year has been well imbibed and we are on a path. Bharti sir?
Thank you, Rajiv. I think he has said all that needed to be said about collusivity and what did we expect, okay, with the kind of equipment that they operate. and from both sides, okay, be it from our northern adversary, northern neighbor, or be it from Turkey. All right. So that can be expected. All right. But I would like to, yes, here make a comment because we were reacting to some terrorist incident and their backers. So should the support have come the way it has come, that is for us to ponder. Okay. But, I would like to paraphrase it in, our Rashtrakavi Dinkar's one of the poems. Okay. जब वो कहते हैं कि समर शेष है नहीं पाप का भागी केवल व्याध जो छद्म है समय लिखेगा उनका भी अपराध. So you can understand. As far as additional equipment is concerned, Mr. Ajit, yes, I can confirm to you that the next set of units, okay, we should be having with us within a month, okay, and the final one maybe by the end of this year. As far as Kusha is concerned, yes, it is still a work in progress. We are looking at it seriously and trying to expedite it, maybe in another 3 to 5 years. And additional units coming from across, from abroad. Well, I'd not like to put a time frame at this instance. It's work in progress. Okay, so that is for the details of the equipment that is coming in. Thank you.
Let me amplify on the Mayan's question on the collision between China and Pak. I would like to respond to your question through certain signposts, and which you have seen in the diplomatic front when Pahalgam attack happened. China refrained from condemning the Pahalgam attack. This is the first part of it. Similarly, when the UN Security Council's press statements were made, and that's the time when China again influenced, and the references of the resistance front was directly involved in the attack, that was not made. And as General Ghai had mentioned, that 80% of imports, arms imports, are from China, and so that's a kind of relationship, economic, military, and the strategic relationship which China and Pakistan, and that is for obvious reasons which you all know. More importantly, in terms of the imports which happens in the arms and the niche platforms, whether it is ships, aircraft, or submarines, the best of the platforms are given. And recently you saw also that they've already announced in the next 2 years 40 odd J-35s are going to be J-35 Alpha. That's the 5th generation aircraft. That is the kind of, and this is only on the hardware platform. Similarly, whether it's in the space-based collaboration happens in terms of launching of Pak satellites, information aspects, joint exercises. So it's a large, so if you see the background, they are well enmeshed and clustered. Now, if you have to come with this backdrop, if I have to come back to your specific questions of what is the kind of collusivity, for any layman, he can understand with this backdrop, we can prudently assume that there would be certain kind of assistance, and this we all take into our military calculus, whether it is in terms of space-based asset services being provided, whether it is electronic intelligence sharing happens, or cyber support, or during the conflict, the arms and equipment which are supplied. This is given thing. The other, also in the open source, you would have also seen that when negative publicity was being made by Pakistan, there is an open source information which is there that China did amplify whatever it is and did influence the international public about Pakistan's viewpoint also. So these are very, very clear that there is a good strong relationship between Pak and China. The second question which was there, are we handling three adversaries at the same time in this different fronts of it? So it is not a military, the comprehensive national power is not only military actions. So there are many other channels available in terms of diplomatic. There are ways of handling it. So it is not adversary as such at that point of time. Adversary at that point of time only was Pakistan. And you would have seen in the recent conflicts, whether it is Ukraine, Russia, whether Iran, Israel, US, there are support from various other sides also, economically, militarily, everything. So that doesn't become, though law of armed conflict is very, very clear that if you support, then you also become a belligerent. But it has become a different, it's a blurred image and it's become a norm now. So we have different ways of handling other people who try to influence these. It could be diplomatic, it could be economic, it could be many ways of informational itself you could engage or other ways. This is one. Third aspect is related to what is the plan to tackle air defense threat in the maritime domain. So the fleet air defense, any assets at sea, the responsibility of fleet air defense is the Navy. So first, the attempt is always, it's a layered defense. First, a threat could be missile, threat could be aircraft itself, aircraft launching in the thing. The launch platform could be from shore, could be from aircraft, could be from subsurface. So our first strategy is always to neutralize the launch platform. And that launch platform, shore, there are many ways the sister services will ensure that any launch platform which is there short, it can be neutralized there itself. The subsurface, there are anti-submarine actions which we do, in which we look at neutralizing the launch platform. To neutralize or degrade a fighter threat which is there, which can launch missile, then you have an integrated fleet air defense. That means you have superior fighters, aircraft to neutralize, so intercept and neutralize this. Within the fleet, you have layered air defense systems, which could be surface-to-air missile, long-range surface-to-air missiles, then you come to a short-range, then point defense systems, close-in weapon systems. So this guy there. But now you have seen that the threat is increasing in terms of supersonic missiles, hypersonic missiles. So as the threat is increasing, the technology is allowing you also to build up your air defense capability through better sensors who can detect the supersonics and the hypersonics missiles. And you have the ability to, that is the work in progress. As Air Marshal Bharti just mentioned, the Project Kusha, the similar thing will be translated into sea-based BMD capability. That is the kind of, so we are, the work is on in this. Thank you.
Can we have next set? People have been raising hand. We'll try and cover maximum people. 64, 27 and 9, please. Okay. One more we can take, say, I think 86 has been raising for a long time, please. And any similar question we can please cover. Please start. 64. Ma'am, I think this side, yes, 64 years. Yes, you're the one. Can you please pass the mic?
So my first question is to Vice Admiral Pramod. You said that India, sorry, sir, I'm Parvinder Sandhu from the Statesman Group. So you said that India called Pakistan's nuclear bluff. So did India access any nuclear signaling during the operation? My next question is to Lieutenant General Ghai, that, you spoke about intelligence.
If you could repeat the first question again.
So you said that India called Pakistan's nuclear bluff. Did India assess any real nuclear signaling during the operation? My second question is to General Ghai, that you spoke about intelligence inputs being very precise post-operation. So how did Pahalgam attack happen in the first place? Were intelligence failures identified? And my next question is to Air Marshal Bharti. You mentioned we stepped back but did not leave. Does that mean some military assets are still positioned for rapid retaliation if something happens again?
Next, please. 27.
हेलो सर, शिखा ठाकुर फ्रॉम जी मीडिया। जनरल घाई, पहला सवाल मेरा आपसे है, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर को लेकर के बहुत सारे नैरेटिव्स आए, लेकिन सर सबसे बड़ा मिसकंसेप्शन जो आपको लगता है जो फैलाया गया ऑपरेशन सिंदूर को लेकर के, वो क्या है? हम चाहेंगे कि वो आप
यहाँ पर बताएं। और अगला सवाल मेरा वाइस एडमिरल प्रमोद सर से है। सर, एक इवेंट में रक्षा मंत्री राजनाथ सिंह ने खुद कहा है कि इस बार मौका नेवी को सबसे पहले मिलने जा रहा है, तो क्या इसके मायने क्या है? और फ्यूचर इंडिया पाक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में क्या ये सिर्फ लैंड बॉर्डर तक सीमित नहीं रहेगा, बल्कि अरेबियन सी और मेरीटाइम चोक तक भी, पॉइंट्स तक एक्सटेंड होने की संभावना है? एंड इन दैट केस क्या हमारी तैयारी होगी?
9 number, please. Ma'am, 9.
Hello, sir. I'm Shivani Sharma from India Today. And as we all know that the wars are not only about land, water, and sea, it is way beyond the cyber and the space domain. And my question is to General Minwala. Sir, we've seen that Pakistan, especially after Operation Sindoor, it has launched a number of satellites. It is trying to expand in the space domain. What are our preparations in this particular area?
And we have some local media from Jaipur also. You have similar question, please go ahead. 77, please. Anybody from local media, Jaipur? Anyone, please. Yeah, 32 number, please.
My
Go ahead.
question is to all of you, kind of extending Shivani's question. What?
May I request you please introduce yourself?
My name is Suparna. I'm from Times of India, and you had mentioned that AI-enabled tools are being used to capture misinformation. So, if you could share some more on that.
Sir, please.
86.
86, yeah, 86. Left hand.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर, दिस इज अंजू निर्वाम फ्रॉम TV9 भारतवर्ष। सर, मेरा ये सवाल है कि ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में कंट्रोल वॉरफेयर की रणनीति क्या थी, और ये दूसरे वैश्विक युद्ध जैसे कि रूस यूक्रेन वॉर हम देख रहे हैं और अमेरिका ईरान का युद्ध भी देख रहे हैं, उससे कितना अलग था? और जिस तरीके से हमने जो दुश्मन के लक्ष्यों को अटैक किया, इसका रणनीतिक महत्व, जहां पर हमने अटैक किया उसका स्ट्रैटेजिक इंपॉर्टेंस क्या था? और सर, दूसरा सवाल यह है कि ऑपरेशन सिंदूर की सफलता में राजनीतिक नेतृत्व और होल ऑफ नेशन अप्रोच का क्या योगदान रहा?
I think 13 number, you also have the similar question. 13, please.
हाय सर, पवन मिश्रा, न्यूज 24 से हैं सर। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में अग्निवीरों ने भी अपनी अहम भूमिका निभाई थी। पहले बैच का जो है कंफर्मेशन होने वाला है, क्या उनके लिए कुछ अलग से बेनिफिट दिया जाएगा?
You can take on, sir.
Okay. Pramod, you want to answer your part first? Nuclear signaling.
So, my only one word answer to assess any nuclear signaling is no. No. That's it.
And maritime RM's contention.
Okay. Shikha Thakur, you spoke about RMs. Speed, mobility, lethality, and survivability. Why survivability? Because land, you could attack missiles and other things. You are mobile, so the survivability are the inherent strength of a naval power, and which you have seen everywhere in recent war. Also, you have seen 3 carrier battle groups going. The survivability is a very, and they can deliver. The firepower again is, and the weapon density which a naval unit carries, that again is a strength. So 20, 25, 30, तो मैं आपको बताऊंगा, कुछ पनडुब्बियां होती हैं जो 150 टोमाहॉक मिसाइल से ज्यादा ले जा सकते हैं. So you can have, these are two important in war fighting: firepower and then force preservation. So we are ideally suited to be this way. And the carrier battle group is able to project itself, power projection, जहां आपको sea control करना है वो सब कर सकता है. So but हमारा जो उद्देश्य रहता है, जैसे कि ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में भी था, इट्स अ जॉइंट इंटीग्रेटेड ऑप्स बेस्ड ऑन व्हाट आर पॉलिटिकल मिलिट्री ऑब्जेक्टिव्स आर देयर. द हायर echelons of the military leadership, they decide what is the kind of operation and how synchronized and in the sequence way we are supposed to do. Now coming back to your question per se, as अभी नेवी की बारी है, तो मैं ये बताना चाहूंगा और मेरे सहयोगी डीजीज भी ये मानेंगे कि when, how and where of a military operations is higher element of surprise is important in any kind of operations. So I cannot today decide that, and because the adversary will be prepared for it. So that is a very, very important factor. So I cannot share with you and say that this is my plan. Our plan is decided much and this is one. But if situation arises and opportunity comes our way, be sure that we will deliver a decisive blow without any hesitation. And अगर रक्षा मंत्री जी ने हमको ऑर्डर दिया तो हमारा कर्म और धर्म है कि हम पूरा पालन करेंगे, और अगर भगवान की कृपा होगी हमारे तो आपकी इच्छाएं और तमन्नाओं को भी हम सब मिलकर भरपूर तरह से पूरा करेंगे. थैंक यू.
Before I ask Zubin to answer the questions that were specifically directed towards him, and Air Marshal Bharti also to come in at the queries that were directed to him, two questions. Pramila, you spoke about the intelligence failure and why did the attack take place in the first place? Parminder, I'm sorry. So, let's not sit in judgment here and say that it was a failure. Intelligence is all about how timely it is. While it is available, there is always a process of synthesizing it and then making it available to the people who can act on it. Also, don't forget that sometimes there is a gap in perception about how maybe all of you understand counter-terrorist operations and how they actually unfold on ground. The terrorist or the insurgent has this, benefit of, merging into the population. So that's a big challenge at all times. And let's not forget that the heinous manner in which Pahalgam was carried out, while we've seen incidents like that in the past, in Kashmir, in other parts of heartland India, this is intelligence, even if it is late by a couple of minutes or hours, it's going to be catastrophic. That's how it happened. But I want to concentrate on the fact that once that had happened, we actually hunted those people down in conditions that are always challenging and tough. Took all the time that it did, but the perpetrators were put to rest. And how? I think all of you know that very well. So yes, I reiterate that we have an intelligence base and data that we work from. And I said that in specific relation to the question that was asked about terror camps and infrastructure being across. Intelligence is also aware about terrorists that may be working in the hinterland and probably merged in the population right now. And those efforts will always go on. Whether it was timely or not, that's a debate that will go on. Now, Shikha, you said, what is the biggest misconception that the Pakistanis could have peddled after the operation? The biggest one is they tried to peddle it, probably tried to run away with the narrative. And then, like Air Marshal Bharti said, there is a difference between narrative and evidence. The first time the three of us came and appeared in front of you, we came with you with videos, with photographs, with timestamps on what we did. Have you seen any authentic video being put up by the Pakistanis? So narratives apart. So the biggest misconception that they tried to peddle is that we won the war. But I think that's come undone since then. All their stories have fallen flat. And at the end of the day, they threw what they had at us. And it all came to a knot. Nothing, and I say nothing, actually succeeded for them. So no, that's a sad story. And like I said, they could have done better to invest in capability rather than narratives. Bharti sir?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, first question on Operation Sindoor paused, and are we still forward deployed from the statesman correspondence? Okay, as far as the Indian Air Force is concerned, all right, the beauty of its operations lies in the rapidity of response. Okay, So we need not be forward deployed to respond rapidly and reach where we want to reach. Okay, so that question whether are we still forward deployed, that is, I would say academic, because if there is a requirement for us to reach somewhere, to deliver, we are there, because it is inherently ingrained into the characteristic of Indian, of the Air Force or the air power, which is rapidity of response and its reach. We can reach, we can be in East India, and if there is a requirement to reach West, okay, we can reach within no time. So our posture as to are we forward deployed, what I would like to say that we are deployed as per our requirement, as per our threat assessment, and we are ready even as we speak. So that has been the posture, not during Sindoor, that has been the posture before Sindoor, during Sindoor, and it remains the posture even today. And it will continue to remain so. Second question from TV9 correspondent, जो हिंदी में था, कंट्रोल वॉरफेयर की वैश्विक राजनीति क्या है? और ये बहुत ही अहम सवाल है और बहुत ही आई मीन से इट्स अ गुड क्वेश्चन. ऑलराइट, सो कंट्रोल वॉरफेयर, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर कैसे अलग था और सब जो हमारे चारों तरफ हो रहा है, तो दैट यू हैव कॉट द एसेंस ऑफ इट. इट वाज अ वेरी कंट्रोल्ड एस्केलेशन. सबसे पहले तो हमारी रणनीति क्या थी, हमारा उद्देश्य क्या था इस ऑपरेशन में जाने के पहले? उद्देश्य था कि जो भी टेरर और टेरर बैकर्स हैं उनको टारगेट किया जाए, जो हमने किया. और उद्देश्य द ऑब्जेक्टिव वाज वेरी क्लियर, और हायर डायरेक्शंस हमारे बहुत क्लियर थे कि टेरर और टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को टारगेट करना है. बहुत हो गया, हमने बहुत सह लिया. This will become a new normal. That was the message which needed to go, and that we have driven firmly and very forcefully. So एक बार वो हो गया, उसके बाद हमने उनको कहा कि हमारी लड़ाई आतंक और आतंकवाद के खिलाफ है, और आपने जो किया उसके लिए हम परपेट्रेटर्स को पनिश कर रहे हैं, और हमारी लड़ाई और किसी से नहीं है, और हम इसके आगे नहीं जाना चाहते. लेकिन उन्होंने उसे अपनी लड़ाई बना ली, उसके मिलिट्री ने उन्होंने अपनी लड़ाई बना ली और हमारे ऊपर वापस अटैक किया. तो उसका जवाब तो देना ही था, और जब जवाब देना है तो जवाब मतलब मीक जवाब नहीं होगा. एज आई सेड, इट विल बी लीथल, इट विल बी फोर्सफुल, इट विल बी विजिबल, विच इट वाज. लेकिन फिर भी हम इस इरादे से नहीं गए कि सब कुछ नेस्त नाबूद करना है, एक बेस ले लिया, एक जगह ले लिया और उसको पूरा मिट्टी में मिला देना. नहीं, हमारा आइडिया ये था टू ड्राइव होम ए मैसेज कि लुक, you cannot hide anywhere. We see you everywhere and we will reach you everywhere. So that if you see our targeting pattern, it is some airfields, some radar sites, some command and control centers, some aircraft, some hangars. What does it indicate? It indicates a controlled, escalation. It indicates a message to the adversary that look, we can reach you at will. So, sudhar jao. So that was what was our, our strategy, और वो थी हमारी राजनीति. नाउ राजनीतिक नेतृत्व की महत्ता आपने पूछा, बहुत बड़ी महत्ता है. जब तक वो विल नहीं होगा हमारे देश में कि हमें कुछ करना है, तब तो सब कुछ, जितनी भी आपके पास क्षमता है, वो तो सीधी क्षमता, बस क्षमता ही रह जाएगी, उसका प्रयोग नहीं होगा. तो जब तक वो will, वो direction, and it is a whole national resolve. It doesn't come from a single entity. It is a whole national resolve being projected. So जब तक वो राजनीतिक नेतृत्व की वो will पार नहीं होगा, वो direction नहीं होगा, कुछ move नहीं कर सकता. So that is a very important aspect of any nation's response, and this was an important aspect in Operation Sindoor as well. Thank you.
I think Shivani had asked a question about satellite, the Pakistan space. Yeah. So, Shivani, yes, we've noticed with professional interest the launch of 4 satellites by Pakistan recently. But let me also put it in context, that our first military satellite was launched in early 2000s, 2001. Subsequently, in the last decade, we have been launching constantly satellites in terms of the Cartosat and the Resat series. And we understand probably more than anybody that space is not only just an enabler, it is a contested operational domain. We have formed the Defense Space Agency in the year 2019 under headquarter IDS, with a simple mandate that it looks after all space-related issues of the three services and coordinates that effort. So we are I would say, ahead, and we have some niche programs which are on the anvil to be launched. The Defense Space Agency will soon start controlling some constellations as we go ahead in the next couple of years in terms of ISR satellites, in terms of communication satellites, as also we are looking very carefully at space situational awareness. So these are a lot of work is happening. We are working with ISRO, but we also realize that we need to make our satellite space more dynamic in terms of our capabilities. We will need to incorporate and pull in the private industry into this domain. And the IDEX challenge, and in space, we worked together. We created 75 challenges for the private industry. And actually, we're very proud to see on 3rd May, there is a company which is called Galaxy. It launched the world's first optosar satellite. And it is a fusion of the optical and the SAR imagery. And that itself is, is a reflection of how we are working towards, improving our capabilities and enhancing our capabilities in this domain. So a mix of private industry from ISRO, Defense Space Agency becoming very, very potent, and soon in the coming years, as we have a vision of that is the Vision 2047, where the Defense Space Agency is slated to become the full-fledged space command, and that is where we understand how important this domain is. It is contested. We need slots, and we need more and more satellites to control multi-domain operations. I think one more question was from Suparna. You asked about AI-enabled tools. So you see, cognitive domain is also one of the newer domains of warfare over and above land, air, and sea, which were the earlier traditional domains. So we are seeing that this is a battlefield. The mind is a battle space on its own. And towards this, the defense space, strategic communication division is to be raised and may become an agency later. So we find that this narrative, the false narrative which is on the internet, is a issue which needs to be tackled, and to convey our point of view too. So the biggest challenge we find is that to get the narrative which is being peddled, find out those handles, find out those areas, and that is where AI is being enabled. While the technical details are, I would not like to bring out how it does it, but we need to identify these handles, these narratives, the stories, and then put it right in the correct perspective. So towards that, we are in the process of rolling out such AI tools.
Thank you, sir. I think we can have 62 and 84, please. I think last set.
Hi, sir. My name is Jugal. I'm reporting for the BBC. I have one question and two clarifications. The question is, the question actually is to General Ghai. It was mentioned that there was a DGMO to DGMO conversation on the 10th of May, after which, the cessation actually took effect. Now, this is something that the Pakistani side contests, and they in fact say it was the other way around, that the request came from Indian side. Because there has been so much emphasis on evidence, on putting hard data out there, I'm just wondering whether India is contemplating putting out evidence or maybe recordings of that of what India says happened. Is there any move to that effect? And the clarification is actually on what my colleagues asked to General Ghai, which is the Pahalgam incident that took place. Was there any accountability fixed for what took place there? Because many family members of those who were killed did say that there was no help available to them for a very long time post incident. Is there any accountability fixed? And on the question that my colleague asked, Air Marshal Bharti, on the damages, because we had a statement from the CDS, I think immediately after the conflict, that there were some initial tactical mistakes made and conversations on aircraft losses. I'm just wondering if there's a change of mind on giving any details on that aspect. Thank you.
Yeah, next, please.
Hi, sir. I'm Javeria Rana from the New Indian Express. My question is that, Op Sindoor has established, it's a question to all of you, Op Sindoor has established BrahMos as a phenomenal precision strike system, but considering the cost and high cost and sustainment factor, and especially in a sustained conflict scenario, what alternate options is the military working on or looking at?
We had 84 also.
सर मैं संदीप हूँ INS से. सर मेरा सवाल घाई सर और भारती सर से एक कि जो लेसन्स किसी भी वॉर से लिए जाते हैं, तो ऑपरेशन सिंदूर से जो लेसन्स लिए गए उसको कुछ को इम्प्लीमेंट किया गया ठीक करने के लिए, कितने ऐसे लेसन्स हैं जो कि अभी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए बाकी है? और DGNO सर से मेरा सवाल है कि सर काफ़ी लंबे समय के बाद ये देखा गया है कि जो वॉर जो है वो एयर और लैंड की जगह अब सी में भी शुरू है, और जिस तरीके से हमने US का और ईरान के बीच में देखा, और सबमरीन का भी यूज़ हुआ जिसमें ईरानियन वॉरशिप को गिराया गया. ये पहला मौका इतने टाइम बाद इस तरीके की चीज़ें देखने को मिल रही है. तो अब इंडियन नेवी के किस तरीके से तैयार हो रही है, क्योंकि चाइना और पाकिस्तान दोनों एक दूसरे को स्पेशली नेवल वॉरफेयर में भी जो है सपोर्ट कर रहा है. अभी रिसेंटली एक सबमरीन भी दी गई है.
Anybody has got any related question, please keep your question short. If it is related, please, that's it. Please keep it short so that we can...
Sir, this is about the post-operation defense acquisition strategy as well, because as Air Marshal Bharti said that aerial superiority has been established. But we have seen in the recent wars that numerical superiority is also a very valid domain in terms of smaller drones, smaller missiles that can overwhelm your air defense systems. And also for the naval unmanned naval system, naval drones as well. So is there a long-term defense acquisition, change in defense acquisition strategy, given the fact that recent wars are taking place and Operation Sindoor is?
13 number आपका क्वेश्चन आई थिंक जनरल घई से था, वो आंसर नहीं हुआ, आप दोबारा बता सकते, रिक्वेस्ट कर
This is Akshay Dongre from DD News.
Agniveer, no?
I'll answer. The Betty, please, sir.
So, one question related to this, Nehesh from the print. So, post-op Sindoor, there have been structural changes that have been made to the Pakistani military. They have undertaken certain changes. They've brought in the rocket force, the army rocket force, as well as created the post of the CDF. You know, they've streamlined certain decision-making process, making it linear. So how does the Indian military look at this, and what are we doing to counter them? At the same time, Air Marshal Bharti, so you headed the operations, the air operations. You've seen what we have, what we don't have, and what they have and what they don't have. Now you've become the deputy chief in charge of the procurements in the Air Force. What are the priority areas for you as far as the Air Force, strengthening the capability of the Air Force is concerned on the procurement front, sir? Thank you.
Sir, one related question to Stanish's question, sir. I'm Ajit Dubey from ANI, sir. Sir, just a small comment from General Ghai. How do you see Asim Munir rewarding himself for the loss in Operation Sindoor and promoting himself as Field Marshal?
Okay, first, Jugal, DGMO to DGMO. Look, contrary to belief, this is not a new phenomenon. It's not as if during Operation Sindoor, the Pakistani DGMO picked up the phone and spoke to the Indian DGMO. This has happened in the past. There is a hotline functional today. Representatives from both the directorates speak every week to resolve essentially problems on the line of control. The fact that that medium was used is known. If you're asking me, are we going to try and put out evidence? I don't think that's necessary. There is no such plan. If they want to live in a world where they want to bury their head in the sand and say all is well, they can be our guests. I don't think any evidence is required. But everybody knows that they were compelled to do what they did. I think Air Marshal Bharti gave out the stats of what happened. I substantiated that by what happened on the line of control. So I think it was an operation that achieved total surprise. We inflicted damage on all of less than 90 hours. So when you subject somebody to this kind of ignominy, I think they had no other recourse but to pick up the phone and call. And call he did. That's a question, since you're from the BBC, you could also direct to the other side. So, and I think it's also been made clear in Parliament last year by no less than the Prime Minister himself as to what the sequence of events was. It was a bilateral call between the two of us. As far as differences and disputes between India and Pakistan are concerned, we are very clear in India that this is bilateral. We haven't in the past, we don't today, and we will not in the future accept any other mediation of any other kind. So I think that's the bottom line. And there is absolute unanimity in India about that. Accountability. That's for the Ministry of Home Affairs to fix. And I'm sure that has been done. So it's not my place to say that you are alluding that there was no help, with due respect, because a lot of people died. And at such a time, tempers are running high. You want to try and find somebody who you can fix accountability for and point a finger at. But let me assure you, given the fact that there was lead flying around, people were rushing to the spot, there is no question ever. And I'm underlining that. There is no question ever that somebody in duress will not be offered assistance or help or succor by anybody in uniform. And I speak for everybody in uniform, for the armed forces, for the paramilitary forces. I think that intent is beyond doubt. So that's what I want to say about that. Now, before I go further, I want to answer the Agniveer question. Yes, very much a part of the Indian Army. Yes, many Agniveers have proven themselves in the battlefield. They were part of Operation Sindoor last year. There are other areas in which many of them have distinguished themselves. There are terms and conditions that are laid out. And those, I think the government has also said, will be reviewed from time to time. And that is the status where that is concerned. Lessons of Operation Sindoor, how many have been implemented? The number is not important. But the intent, ladies and gentlemen, is, and we've already given you the direction in which we are moving. Please be rest assured that every lesson worth imbibing will be implemented and capability will be enhanced. So that's a process that is going on in all earnest. So I think there are other questions about numerical superiority, which I think Air Marshal Bharti will answer. About structural changes Snehesh,
I'll take that on.
I think Zubin can answer that. About structural changes in Pakistan, Zubin will answer that. And I'll now hand over to Air Marshal Bharti. Before that, about Field Marshal Munir promoting himself. Well, what can I say? That is for them to answer. We've looked at that process with some kind of amusement.
Okay, Mr. Jugal, now coming back once again, we have talked about it. Okay, what losses they inflicted. Okay, in the initial narrative only I have told. Okay, so there is nothing more that I would like to convey. We have conveyed it enough. I have conveyed it on the 11th of May 2025 itself. Even the Chief of Air Staff on few occasions he's conveyed that. So I don't think it deserves any more comment, because any comment, okay, on the effectiveness or the absence of it, okay, will be advantage the other side. So let them think whatever they want to think suits us, because only we know the ground reality. So, and we won't like to give them that advantage of giving a feedback, because nobody gives us that advantage of a feedback. In fact, no, world over, no adversary gives advantage of a feedback to the other side. So we won't like to give that. So let them think whatever they think. Okay. And as I said, we know, and we know the ground reality, and ground reality I have already articulated earlier in my response. So I'll leave it at that. Now, BrahMos, high cost, what are the alternate options? Okay, we are in an age wherein we need to invest in our capabilities. That is not shying away from the fact that, yes, we need to look at the other spectrum also. So we are in an age wherein you need to have high cost niche technologies, maybe limited numbers, okay, aircraft, missiles, okay, come in that bracket. And we also need to have low cost, small form factor and mass numbers. So that is where we are working in the present generation. So both are required. So BrahMos, even other systems which are of high cost, it has got its place in the strategy that we have. So you cannot replace that with a low-cost drone or a loiter munition or a counter-UAS system. So everything has its place, and it is only a combination of the two that will give us the results. Because if you see the low-cost systems, the drones, the other US systems, okay, at times, at best, it can give you, okay, continuous harassment, some targets. But if you want a decisive result, then it has to be a pulverizing effect on the target. And that pulverization can only be brought in by these high-end weapons with which has got the potential to bear maximum amount of explosive on the target. So that we cannot do away with it. And BrahMos, I mean, it is indigenous. So we should be proud of it. And it has stood the test of time. So it is something that we need to encourage, and something we need to be very proud of. All right, so that is for BrahMos and many other indigenous systems which are in the pipeline. Okay, there are a lot of them. And you would see in the coming, I would say, 1.5 to 2 years, there will be a lot of other indigenous weapon systems which will be on the horizon and we would have inducted. So that is a huge plus for us. Lessons implementation कितना बाकी है ये तो हमारे कलीग जनरल राजीव ने ऑलरेडी कवर किया है. मैं थोड़ा सा इसके ऊपर बस इलाबोरेट करना चाहूँगा कि इट्स अ कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस. ये नहीं कह सकते कि सिंदूर के बाद ही हमने कुछ इस पे इम्प्लीमेंट करना शुरू किया. जैसा कि पहले मैंने कहा कि ये कंटिन्यूअसली हम लोग इवैल्यूएट करते रहते हैं कि हमारी ट्रेनिंग कैसी है, हमारी इक्विपमेंट कैसी है, हमारी रेडीनेस कैसी है. सो इवन बिफोर सिंदूर we were filling wherever we felt the gaps, and post Sindoor also that's a continuous effort. And उसके बाद दो questions आए, related questions I would say. एक थे कि acquisition strategy क्या है, and thereafter some priority areas of IF strengthening its capabilities. Okay, acquisition strategies. So दोनों related हैं. So acquisition strategy यही है कि जो कुछ हमने देखा कि कैपेबिलिटी हमारे पास सारे थे, लेकिन जितनी क्वांटिटीज में होने चाहिए थे वो नहीं थे। जैसे इनेबलर्स की बात करें, ISR, इंटेलिजेंस सर्विलेंस रिकॉनेसेंस, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। यदि हम देख नहीं सकते, इंटेलिजेंस हमारे पास नहीं है, तो हम टारगेट क्या करेंगे? सो वी नीड टू बीफ अप आर ISR कैपेबिलिटीज, विच इज हैपनिंग। इनेबलर्स, आप एवैक्स, AWC की बात करें, उस पर भी काम हो रहा है, और आप लोगों ने न्यूज में देखा ही होगा कि हमने DSC ने अप्रूव किया है, एंड वी आर गोइंग इन अ बिग वे for these enablers. Flight refueling aircraft, uski RFP already out hai, and very soon we will be going ahead with these acquisitions. So enablers are one thing which act as force enhancers, force multipliers. We are looking in a big way in enhancing the number of our enablers. Then what procurement strategy, acquisition strategy, we also saw that we need drones in US in large numbers. So we are looking at it, and there is a lot of incentive from the government of India. The PLI scheme hai, IDEX hai. So to bring in our own players, MSMEs, encourage them and get them going into this field. Because when we require it, we will need scalability. क्योंकि आज हमारे पास कुछ नंबर्स हैं, 5,000, 10,000 जो भी हैं, जब जरूरत पड़ेगी तो उसको हमें स्केल करना पड़ेगा, स्केल अप करना पड़ेगा, वीक टू वीक, डे टू डे. सो दैट capability has to, and the capacity has to come to our industry. We are looking at that aspect, at the aspect of enhancing the capacity of our industry when we need it. So that is one acquisition strategy which we are looking at. Counter US, very big player in this, because whatever came from the other side, we were prepared for it and we were able to neutralize that. So counter US, to build on hard kill, on soft kill weapons systems, we are looking in a big way to enhance this grid and make it as robust as possible. And space-based assets he has already spoken about. Priority areas, we have made a long-term vision for Indian Air Force, which you all will be aware of. And SCON strength, yes, is low. We are looking at seriously at enhancing this strength. And if you realize, this time government of India has increased the funding for the Indian Air Force. Last time it was about 1,30,000 crore. Now we are at 1,55,000 crore, which gives us additional funds. And it is not that is all. If we need more would be available. So we have planned in the long term, our vision, 5th generation aircraft will work on AMCA. We are already working on the MRFA, and of course our own indigenous systems. LCA Mark 1A, very soon it should be coming to us. Mark 2 we are working on. First flight, it should be in near future. And AMCA, of course, as I said. So those are the indigenous systems. So fill in the gaps, enhance the SCON strength, and look at indigenous systems. Same time, look at indigenous weapons, which we have talked about, and indigenous electronic warfare systems, which also is being looked at. Thank you.
Snesh had asked about the structures, what Pakistan has, created after Op Sindoor. In a way, Snesh, it's a indicator of firstly creation of a Army Rocket Force Command, of how hard he was also hit. Whereas our structures, the Defense Secretary, I think on the 30th, during the leadership summit in ANI, had spoken about the need for we to have a kind of a conventional missile force and structure. So I will leave it. He brought out that there is a paradigm shift from the usage of such missiles from the strategic. So that paradigm has shifted, and therefore that there's an emerging rationale to create such structures. And what structures will emerge is something of a debate which is happening, and I will leave it at that. But what I want to highlight is, firstly, in terms of Pakistan, you said he has created some structures. We know what his capabilities are. We know exactly what he has. So whatever structure he creates, we know what he has to bring against us. In terms of our own capabilities, we are enhancing our own capabilities to go beyond what we have existing. We are looking at a wide spectrum of ranges, a wide spectrum of trajectories to operate in all domains And therefore, this capability is what we are developing as we speak. We are not waiting for some structures to be formed, which will take its own time, and that is being debated. So we are looking at capability development. And in terms of the usage and employment of such vectors is very important. I want to highlight that two important doctrines are being looked at in this regard. And one is a joint ISR doctrine and a joint targeting doctrine. And both are very critical in this domain to employ such vectors when we bring it into a more optimal and effective way. And we have a very effective delivery system. The enemy knows that we have potent force currently held with us. And in the future, you've seen some trials also from DRDO, which have happened in the recent past. So these are all kind of vectors that we are now looking at. And we have a very efficient decision-making and delivery system in place as we speak.
I think it's time to close now, and we thank all the media people.
Navy, I forgot your name, Sandeep. So Air Marshal Bharti briefed you on the procurement part. I just want to give two more. I think it's very, very pertinent questions which you asked, both and related to BrahMos and the drone part. And you have hinted, and in your question in itself, you have given suggestions to us. And you are right that we would not like to put all eggs in one basket, but we fight with what we have. And BrahMos, as Air Marshal Bharti said, there are alternate 1 to 2 years. We have other mix of long-range vectors, which we are looking at indigenous development taking place. Same thing about the drone question, very pertinent to a question asked, what is related to policies, procurement, how we are going to. And for that, the government is working out, and the gestation period from the conceptualization of a platform, how to induction that compressing the timelines, that is being worked out. And that solution will come through moment we have Atmanirbhar. Definitely we have much more control our indigenous industry, so that aspect should be Sandeep, yours is a very good observation, and this is after a very long time we see so many number of aircraft carriers there in the Indian Ocean region, carrier battle groups. Till 5th May or 6th May, there were 3 carrier battle groups operating in Indian Ocean region. That was Abraham Lincoln, George Bush, and Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford has left, and now French Charles de Gaulle has entered Indian Ocean region. But that is what media shows you. But I can assure you in this war, all domains, air, physical, land, if you ask about army, you ask about troops at the 82nd Airborne Corps, 101 Corps, your mountain brigades, army rangers, Delta Force, a number of fighters which are Air Force, 100, 150 fighters. So all kinds of things are happening, and all it's a multi-domain operations, and all forces comes into play. It's not individual one service which comes into play, but visibility is much more there. But also you would see that in Houthi, when attack happened and Red Sea, Gulf of Aden, you would find that the merchant vessels and the seafarers, the threat was there. Again, the carrier battle groups were brought in. And again, in this time, the carrier battle group, as I mentioned, that there are inherent strength of this. So what we are doing to enhance our capability, and it's an ongoing process, we look at in mixed acquisitions in terms of whether it is a balanced mix, that is subsurface, surface, air, whether it's space-based surveillance as a cyber capability, all these things, including cognitive warfare, uncrewed assets. We look at a balanced mix of platform to undertake multi-domain operation together as an integrated joint operation. Towards that, lots of acquisition is happening. And you also mentioned about Western adversary, getting one submarine. All assets, long-term assets, it's in our horizon, short-term, long-term, how to tackle those things. We are keeping this thing. And that's why we would always like to maintain a conventional superiority against our Western adversary. And you talked about the Northern adversary. There are ways and means of handling things. And that could be in terms of asymmetric mindset, asymmetric capability, pinpricking. There are many, many ways of doing it, and that we are prepared for that also in the long term. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We come